DCM works. We're bloody good looking.
It was probably a song that reminded me of it, or I'd done an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
Writing is definitely an isolating thing.
From an outside perspective, that's weird as
It makes
fuck.
us look really mental.
But that is
Because of what it kind of said about art.
I had fun in bits. There were fun bits.
we went and bought a value pack of straps.
Oh my god, we did. There's a big lesson here to learn about storytelling. Hey guys, welcome back to the After Artist Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works. My name is David DCM, creative director, lead writer at DCM Works. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben. Wow.
Hi.
All right, well then, do you have something to say?
No.
All right. Today, you're eating nuts already.
I'm eating nuts.
It's a good start to the episode. Aren't you going to be thirsty with all that salt?
Shit.
And that none of that drink you have?
I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this.
You've gone in on tilt with no backup plan.
Yep.
Today we're talking about the humor of Rick and Morty. Now,
Rick and Morty forever.
Rick and Morty forever, Rick and Morty 100 times forever, always, rickandmorty.com. I love this show. We've talked about this a little bit before, but I
show.
fucking love it. It's so fun, right?
It's
a cartoon, it's Dan Harmon.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of cartoons for adults. Well, no. It started off as like people were like, we don't really know what it is. Like, is it just a cartoon for kids? But then you get through season 1, you're like, it's clearly not cartoon for kids.
Well, the whole, I mean, the
Because
show's
it's full of swearing and alcoholism.
I mean, the show's premise, the comedic premise of the show is that every time you think something's going to happen, something weird happens, right?
Yeah.
So a great example is in the first episode. I mean, it's not the first example, but in the first episode when they put on the gravity boots and Morty steps off the cliff and breaks his legs.
Yeah.
That is, and you're like, whoa, and then he lies there and goes, ah, and you're like, what's happening? And then Rick comes down and he's like, you didn't turn him on, you dipshit, you know. And then he disappears, and then you get like a 10-second not moving camera shot of Morty just lying there wincing in pain, crying in pain. Like, that is the first like real misdirection of you're like, whoa, this show's doing something.
It's a lot like Adventure Time, but where Adventure Time is actually aimed more towards kids, Rick and Morty most definitely isn't.
It's definitely an adult show. You know, it's Dan Harmon at his peak doing adult comedy.
Well, what station does it run on? Comedy Central?
No, I think it's
Adult Swim.
It's an Adult Swim show, I believe.
Yeah, so it's like young adults. But it sort of sits on that line of like, it just has this world which doesn't really have many rules. Like, there's a couple of rules, but the rules are usually just like, Rick is the strongest being in the universe. Have fun.
Well,
which is basically what
he's
Adventure Time is like. Yeah.
You know.
Especially like it when like it sort of starts off, especially with like season 1, and it goes pretty ham in season 2, where Rick is basically, he's just this weird sci-fi character. He's like sort of
he's based on what's his face from Back to the Future.
Yeah, he's basically Doc.
He's like that plus Doctor Who plus
alcohol.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like, he's just an asshole.
Well, he's like if you put Doctor Who and BoJack together.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
and it's funny because you start off and you think he's like, you think Rick is just sort of part of this world, but then like some episodes that go by and there's some certain points you start to realize that he is the center of the universe. Like, everything revolves around Rick, but it doesn't make the show any less interesting. I think because he's like, Rick is like carbon, like absolutely like stock standard sort of like Deus Ex Machina character. Like, he is so strong, but they don't let him like overstep his power.
Well, I think that's because his abilities and his knowledge and his equipment and all that stuff, they rely on him to use it. And the thing that makes him interesting is that he's such a flawed person.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we'll talk about the ending of season 2 later, but he's such a flawed character that the minute that you give him all of these tools and this abilities and all of these things,
he could do amazing things, but he doesn't because he's an asshole,
because he's Rick.
Yeah,
and that's I think that's one of the really interesting things about this idea of the multiple Rick,
the multi Rick,
and the multi Mortys and the multi all these different universes, all the different people, and then you get there's a line in the show where Rick is like, well, I'm the Rickest Rick there ever was, whoever Ricked or whatever.
He's the real Rick. Yeah,
because he is such the epitome of being that character. Like, it's really meta, but
yeah, like the episodes where he's sort of like the Council of Ricks.
oh god, that's
Like
real
they're trying to capture him because he's like a renegade Rick, and it's just like, but they're all assholes. Like he's like the prime asshole.
He's the prime Rick.
Yeah.
He's
And-
sort of if you imagine like the multiverse theorem, where there's like thousands of different versions of you, he's like the one at the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah, he's like he's the upper echelon of Ricks.
Yeah,
And
which makes him the worst person.
Yeah, and there's a lot of episodes where he'll sort of interact with other Ricks, or it'll go back to the whole idea that, you know, because he's basically the center of the universe, he's set up all these things to, you know, there's the fucking daycare for what Morty's dad, whatever his name is.
Jerry.
Yeah, so every
Jerry
time
daycare.
Yeah, the Jerry daycare. So every time he's like I don't want to deal with Jerry, he just drops him off at the Jerry daycare and leaves. And then comes back and collects his Jerry
with his ticket.
with his ticket, and like they mess up the tickets, and they're like,
the ending where it's
they
like,
they exchange Jerry's, and it's just
he's
like,
gonna take this because he's got a ticket from like the adventure park or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, have you got?
you have my
He's
Rick,
like- and he's like,
you
oh,
have my
whatever.
Jerry.
You
He's
got
like,
my Jerry,
whatever. They
whatever.
just swap, and the Jerry's like, what?
And that kind of like, I think that's pretty indicative of this idea of like the whole show's humor is basically that Rick doesn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
But he kind of does in the weirdest ways.
He's like the most real character.
He's the most real superhero you're ever gonna see. Ever.
Yeah.
Because he's so not super and he's so
It's
not
very,
a hero.
It's very Hancock, and at times
Reminds me of Hancock, except better.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we'll talk
I like
about Hancock eventually. But,
just because the name's funny.
and also Will Smith is great in that.
Yeah.
And so is what's his face? Is Rob Lowe in that, or is it
I don't know
someone
who
else?
that is.
Wow.
I mean, I know the name. I
You would
the
know.
face.
You would know Rob Lowe when you
I
see
know
him.
the face. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably know the
he's
face.
super famous.
Yeah.
Like long time, big time actor. He was in West Wing, which you haven't seen.
No.
But you should. 'Cause it's one of the greatest shows ever.
Been watching House of Cards. Does that count?
No,
Close.
it's not as good.
It's a Congress and
No,
stuff.
there hasn't been a TV show made as good as The West Wing ever.
All right.
And I'm not saying it's
I'll take your word on that.
it's a show about the politics of the White
Politics.
House.
Yeah.
So I'm not. And I
So
love
it's House of
Firefly,
Cards.
so what I'm saying is the show is the best show ever made. I'm not saying
Whatever.
it's my favorite.
Whatever, David.
No. This is not conjecture. It's the fundamental truth. Anyway,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I really like about Rick and Morty is they take a bunch of sci-fi tropes and they fuck with them.
Oh yeah, like
So in
every
the-
episode is just a play on some sort of sci-fi thing.
Is the first episode the one where where Rick destroys the world and then they have to with the apocalypse, or is it the last one of the season? Have you watched both seasons?
I've watched both seasons. Season 1 I watched a while ago, but I watched season 2 recently. Season 1 ends with where he like freezes time
Oh right,
because of the party and they have to clean the
yes.
house.
Okay, no. So the end
But
of the
then they
episode.
accidentally freeze time for like 6 months.
Well, no, they just do their own thing for 6 months.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the end of the first episode of season 1, Rick makes the love potion for Morty. Is that episode? And he turns everyone into hideous bug monsters, and they just hop to an alternate dimension, kill themselves, and bury themselves in the backyard, and then start their life as if they always lived there.
Yes, I do believe that.
Because
Because
holy shit. Okay, so that premise, the way that episode ends is that they cause an apocalypse where everyone
Yeah.
becomes Bugmen. Rick is like, we can't fix it. So they hop into an alternate dimension, kill themselves.
Yeah, kill themselves and
bury
bury
themselves, and then
and just
they go
replace
about
them.
their lives.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene where Rick is totally fine with
Yeah,
it.
it's the kind of thing where Rick is totally fine, and I think Summer and Morty have been pulled along. Like they're both involved in it.
No, I don't think Summer is. This is before Summer knows or is part of the team.
Part of the team.
Because Summer only becomes part of the team after they pause time.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
It's
like,
only in its season 2, really.
yeah. So they just go to a new dimension and just kill the Rick and Morty
That live there
that
and
live
take
there.
their place.
And that goes back to the kind of thing where it's just like Rick is so okay with it because he just knows that it doesn't really matter.
Well, because there's
but
so
Morty
many.
just loses it
Yeah.
because you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening?
It's so crazy. And then you've got one of my favorite moments of the whole show, which is where you get the evil. So you get the. Does Rick get framed for murder? And then
Numerous
he has to go.
times,
Well,
probably.
what's the one where there's like the giant dome of Mortys that are being tortured? Have I said that right? I can't
if
think
it's
of
season
what it
1,
is.
I haven't
think
seen season
it might
1
be
in
season
a
1
long
or
time.
it might be season 2. I don't remember. I can't remember which is which, but there's one where
It's not season 2.
Okay, so there's like, I think it's the one where he gets framed and the council like try to arrest him.
Most of the council is season 1.
Yeah, so I think it's like in the middle of like toward the end of season 1,
Yeah.
middle-ish of season 1, where he gets framed for killing a bunch of Ricks, and he finds out that it's actually like this
It's
other
actually
Rick.
just an evil Rick.
Yeah, who's imprisoned like a bunch of Mortys and is like torturing them. He's got them like strung up.
Oh
in a
yeah,
dome.
he's collecting all the
Yeah.
Mortys.
And
yeah.
they form like a mental shield so he can never be found. And you get to the
And
very
there's
end
like
of
a
that episode.
mecha. There's like a weird like mech suit made out of Mortys.
Yes.
Or something.
Something like that. I don't
yeah,
know.
Something stupid.
And you get to the end of that episode and they solve the problem and everyone, Rick releases all the Mortys. And all the Mortys are walking back to their own dimensions. And one of the Mortys turns around, pulls off an eye patch, and has like the control panel for the robot Rick that was controlling everyone.
Yeah.
And you're like, so that's one of the first moments where you get a Morty who's actually smart.
Yeah.
And he's super evil because he knows how badly Rick treats him.
Yeah.
So their relationship relies on the fact that Morty is too dumb to realize that Rick treats him like garbage.
Well, he knows he treats him like garbage, but he's too dumb to do anything about it.
Yes. And
But
so
it actually works out. It's sort of one of those relationships where it's actually good that they're all assholes to each other, because a lot of things would like end up just ending badly if Rick wasn't a massive asshole to Morty.
Yes.
Like my favorite episode, and probably the entire series, so far, is in season 2 with the memory parasites.
Memory parasites.
They're the parasitic aliens that infect people's memories.
Oh my
to sort of
god! And you get all
pretend
the
to be-
different characters.
Yeah,
who
and
appear.
he's like, there's meant to be 6 of us, even though one of them's implied to be a parasite. The Mr. Poopy.
Oh,
Poopy
Mr.
Butt.
Poopy Butthole.
Yeah,
Mr. Poopy Butthole. Oh my
And,
god! The end of that episode.
Oh, it's brutal. But that episode's really cool because it sort of throws the trope on its head of just like, oh, they remember all the good times they had together, so that's why they know they're the real person. Whereas instead, it's the opposite. Like, they have horrible memories of the
each
people
other.
who are real, so they know that they're legitimate. And probably the funniest scene in that is when I think it's like Summer and Morty are like fighting back to back. And like Summer looks over at Morty and it like goes back to a flashback, and it's meant to be like a happy moment of her thinking of all the good times she's had with the brother.
Jacking off in
And
the kitchen?
he's jacking off in the kitchen, and he's like, and
I
Morty
forgot
yells,
that happens.
Yeah, he's funny when Summer's like in the memory when someone's like leaving. Morty's just like, I'm doing it to your friend Georgia, and she's like, no. And then it like cuts back to her scene, and she's like smiling. And you're like, what the fuck? That whole episode is just so funny. And because it plays so well.
The Jerry storyline is heartbreaking.
Oh
though.
god, the Jerry
Where
and the
he invents
Sleepy
Sleepy Gary.
Sleepy Gary or something.
whatever his name- and
who
he-
was his
He falls in love with this guy, and they have the gay
they have
love.
a gay
and they're,
love
like,
relationship,
like an
but
affair.
like Sleepy Gary is married to what's her name? I forget, the mother. So when they kill
Yeah.
Sleepy Gary, she's just like, giving me time to forget Gary. And you're like, what?
Yeah,
It's such a weird episode.
That is a weird one. Is it? Yeah, that I mean.
Well, the
you know-
weirdest part of that episode, which I think plays into a lot of how Rick and Morty is it plays around with sort of the meta narrative, is the intro sequence to Rick and Morty, which has been the same since season 1, has like half the elements in like it does like that typical montage intro thing where it just shows things happening, but like half of those happen. Like half of those things do eventually happen in the series. Like there's elements of them, but half of them are fake. Like half of them don't happen in
Well,
any
they
of
just
the
don't happen
episodes
in the
so
show.
far.
That's all.
Yeah, but one of the funniest ones is that there's like a short clip of them having a pillow fight, and one of the characters in the pillow fight is actually one of the parasites.
Oh yeah, in the intro sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that. Also, Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Oh,
is
in that episode, he's in
yeah,
a couple of them.
and he's
yeah.
also in the ship when it flies toward the screen,
yeah,
like it normally does. Like they add him in.
Yeah, they in the entire in that
throughout the
episode.
show.
In that episode, the parasite episode, he's in every single shot of the intro.
Yeah, because he's not a parasite.
Because he's not a parrot. It's weird, but yeah, it's so. And he's obviously at the end of this season as well. There's an after credits scene with Mr. Poopy
I
Butthole.
haven't seen that.
It's at the end of the last.
Oh wait,
episode of the
is
season.
that where he's like?
He orders pizza and he's going crazy. He's just like, "What a cliffhanger!" And
Yeah,
you're
okay,
like,
I
"God
remember
damn
that.
it!"
Yeah, that reminded me of those Adventure Time episodes where they're like clip shows of different characters, and they've got that guy.
The
Who sits with
the
the-
Grambles.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like, "What's the connecting thing?"
Very. and it's always some
Very.
dumb theme.
You think it's one thing, but
It's
it's
like-
actually just something else. You're like, what the fuck?
One of them was like speed.
One of them
That
was
was the
like
connecting thing.
senses, or like taste, touch,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
and it
The
was
five
first one.
senses. But that reminds me of that a lot. Or in the
Yeah,
end of
some-
Deadpool when it's very like fourth. I mean, the show is very fourth walling.
Oh, the show doesn't have a fourth.
I mean,
one.
Rick often will be like, "We'll see you guys next episode," or whatever.
Yeah.
Or at the end of season 1, he's like, "We'll see you guys next season."
yeah,
Rick and Morty forever, and he does that line, and you're like, "What the fuck?" No,
Well,
sorry,
they-
he does it in episode 1 as well, where he's like, they're standing at the front of the garage. He's like, "All right, we'll see you guys next time."
yeah.
And Morty's like on the ground, like twitching out because he's had
Yeah.
this drug or whatever, and he's brain dead. And Rick's like, "We'll see you guys next time. Rick and Morty Adventures Through the Stars Forever. Rick and Morty Forever.com."
It's the kind of thing where they're like super aware, and they have like they have their version of a filler episode is where they watch interdimensional
Oh my
cable
God.
TV,
And they did it twice.
and they do it twice. And
Hmm.
the second time they do it, this is when they're in the hospital, and he's like ripping off he like rips off the cable thing, and he plugs in his cable machine, and the someone at the hospital is just like, one of the nurses just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "We're doing a sequel."
Yeah.
And she's just like, "I don't know what that means."
No, the greatest thing is none of the other characters do either. It's
Yeah,
just Rick.
It's just Rick.
He knows he's in a show.
Yeah.
And that's...
I think that's pretty cool because, and it's not overtly like pushed that he knows he's in a show. He just sort of, because he's such an aware character that him knowing he's in a show isn't like news. You're just like, well, yeah, that
Well, of
makes
course
sense.
he would.
Like, of course he is.
But it doesn't change the fact that he has to live in that world.
yeah,
That's true.
he's
of, like,
not able to escape it, so he just kind of fucks around with it.
well, and he accepts that that's, like, as a character, he knows that that's the world he's in.
Yeah.
He's not trying to break those rules, and like, he's just like, well, this is the the parameters I operate within.
Yeah, and I think a reason why the show is so good, and why I think it sort of does Adventure Time better, is with Adventure Time, it solidified itself as being this world that has like a backstory and has like characters that have like
I mean, yeah, there
that have these like really like deep lines throughout the story, but it means that when they do episodes in Adventure Time that just sort of escape from the norm and like are kind of silly, you're just like, yeah, it's just a dumb, pointless episode.
yeah, you
But
don't
with-
gain anything.
Yeah, but with Rick and Morty, pretty much every episode it's in universe. Like every episode is canon because they have such a wider scope of possibilities because they're able to go, this is an alternate universe where the ice cream is the best, but also there's spiders everywhere.
Yeah,
And that's just like, okay, and they're able to create these like interesting stories with the characters with these different parameters each time.
I think that's because it's focused on character, not world.
Yeah. Oh,
Where-
it's a
so-
big, like the world doesn't matter at all.
Like one of the biggest struggles, and one of the biggest struggles with Adventure Time, for example, is that,
Sometimes it focuses way too much on world.
and that's because they've hit a point with just the amount that they produce,
Yeah.
where they're like, we have to do something different, right? Whereas with with Rick and Morty, it's very succinct.
Yeah.
Every episode is so well conceived and executed, and they're all sort of, they're modular stories, but with consequences for the characters.
Yeah.
In the same way that, someone described it to me. They were like, it's sort of structurally the same as, like your season 1 or 2 of Doctor Who, like the reboot. It's very like, you've got these cohesive singular stories in an episode that have a plot, they have a beginning, middle, and end, but the outcome of those events in those stories have ongoing consequences for characters.
Yeah.
And it's the idea of, in later episodes, the beginning hooks, so like the thing that starts the episode, is because of something that's happened previously.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
the
not
time.
just like random shit. So
Well, sometimes it is just
no,
out of
but
the blue random.
in the sense that characters will make decisions based on things they've had in the past.
Yeah.
Like Morty changes throughout the show a little bit. So does Rick. Like everyone changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Even
Well, I
Jerry
think all the
changes a
characters
little.
change. Because at first they all just think Rick is a fucking psycho. And to be fair,
He
he
is,
is. And they continue to think that, but they're in on it. Like, they understand that, there's this weird multi-dimensional stuff going on. Not all of them are used to the idea that, like, the same sort of mentality that Rick has where nothing matters. Like,
Well,
the life is literally pointless because there's thousands and billions of other lives out there.
Yeah.
And it's so insignificant. Rick understands that because he's used to it, whereas the other characters are sort of slowly getting used to it.
Yeah.
I think Morty's Morty's obviously going to be the first character who sort of
Is really
picks
in
up on that
it.
idea of just like nothing matters. And he's fine with it. He's he's okay with Rick dropping his dad off at a fucking daycare where there's nothing but Jerry's. You know, he's definitely in on it currently, whereas like Summer not so much.
Slowly getting there.
I really can't. Beth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she's getting there, I guess.
It just came to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I was thinking about
She's probably the least used character so far. But she has good moments.
I don't necessarily agree. I think she's used very well. I think, well, she's not on screen as much as Jerry, but she's used to characterize. Well, she's used to characterize Jerry really well as well.
Yeah.
Like her influence on Jerry is a super interesting. Like their relationship is super weird. But we see more of Jerry because that relationship manifests more in him.
Have they given her sort of a solo storyline yet?
They gave her and Jerry the one where they're at the marriage council place, but she doesn't have a solo one.
Because Jerry has a couple of solos.
But she's supposed to be like the one that doesn't want to join in the hijinks. She's just like the mom who's supposed to be responsible.
Well, I reckon she will in season 3. I reckon she'll be the one that breaks Rick out of prison.
All right, we got to it. Can we talk about the end of season 2?
Oh, fuck me.
How heartbreaking that is.
Oh god, there were a lot of endings in season 2 that were rough. The ending to the Unity episode was rough.
Yep.
Where he basically commits suicide and fails. Well, he basically just attempts suicide.
Yep.
Oh
shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
where he tries to like laser his brains out and he just falls over. He's drunk, yeah.
And
Jesus, yeah.
I
forgot about how dark that is.
Yeah, no, that Unity episode is brutal.
I mean, the whole thing is rough.
Yeah, like the note she writes, like given the fact that she's a sort of symbiotic creature, brutal. It's rough.
Yeah.
But the
the
ending of
oh boy,
the ending of season 2 is like I didn't cry, but I mean it was rough because it's like god damn, like it's just such a departure from how you expect a Rick and Morty episode to end. Well, and not in the same way where like it's different to something like BoJack Horseman, where like BoJack Horseman just nails it in because it's just over and over.
Like drills it through your skull.
Yeah, like it drills you down to a low point and then punches you in the gut. Whereas Rick and Morty stays pretty fun throughout and then just sort of dips at the end. You're like, oh, like it's actually kind of crazy. I have no idea what they're gonna pull with the whole Earth being part of the galactic thing.
I just,
now.
I want to know.
Like, I'm almost expecting the first couple of episodes of the next season to kind of retcon the whole Earth being part of the Federation thing. Like, they're going to do some interdimensional bullshit to go back to the premise of season 1 and season 2.
That or Rick escapes and then just commits genocide and kills everything that isn't human on Earth.
Yeah, and they go back to... Yeah, you know, like so, I reckon the first few episodes will be the resolution of the cliffhanger that ended at season 2.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, the end of season 2...
Spoilers. Too late.
The episode title of people know. They've been watching the show for long enough. They know the episode title. If you haven't seen it, don't listen. Yeah. You know? It's as simple as that. Yeah. Because we analyze the way that the stories are put together. We don't, there's no way to do it without that,
yeah,
right?
Sorry.
Not sorry. So season 2 ends with, they're at Birdman's wedding. And it turns out that Tammy is an undercover agent.
That came out of nowhere.
for the intergalactic police.
The people, yeah.
So a whole bunch of people get murdered at that funeral. Rick gets his family in a van. They escape.
Yeah.
A space van. They escape to a planet. And he starts to realize...
They escape to one of 3 planets, one of which is just...
It's just a Mario Galaxy world.
Well, it's really small, which I thought was funny. There's the, everything on a cob world, which I thought was like, what's wrong with that? But he's like, no, everything's on a cob, and they run out. I think that's pretty funny, because that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of humor that the show has where, like, from an outside perspective, you're like, oh, it's just kind of weird, but Rick just freaks out. He's like, no, we can't have this. And it's the kind of thing where it's just like, you kind of just trust Rick's judgment, where if you're on a planet where everything's on a cob, it's probably a bad thing. It's not just like, oh, cool, everything's on a cob. It's like, we gotta get out of here.
Shit, we gotta go, you know.
What's the third world? The screaming sun.
Oh, yeah.
The sun rises and there's just a guy going, ah!
So they go to the small one.
They go to the small planet.
And so Rick starts to realize
and they make
slowly,
a whole bunch of jokes about the planet being tiny.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of jokes.
Rick starts to realize that the only way to save his family is to turn himself in, basically. Yeah. So he decides that he's going to do that. So he goes and he
has his last drink.
And it's one of these... It goes from...
That's what he does. He has his last drink. And
it goes from 0 to 100 really quick.
Really fast.
Like, you go from, Rick and Morty to he goes and has his last drink, and then he just goes...
I mean, there's so many elements to it being rough. Like, him getting captured, like them going back to Earth and it being like really weird and different. Like, you know, the immigration center is run by aliens.
I mean, nothing's the same
full
without...
of aliens, and they're like,
Nothing's the same without Rick.
Yeah.
And he
gets put in Azkaban.
He's in prison.
And the guy's just like, what are you in here for?
We don't
and
know
he
what
says,
he did.
He's like, everything.
We don't know... Wow. We don't know what he did.
Well, in season 1, he's being chased by the...
Yeah, but that's for a crime he didn't commit. He got framed for that. We don't know what Rick did. Like, we don't know what the thing is that he and Birdman did that's so... Like, we just don't know yet.
Yeah,
And that's an interesting... Like...
It's almost the kind of thing where you can just assume, like...
It could be anything.
Well, that's the thing. When he's asked, what are you in here for? He says everything. And it's the kind of thing where Rick is such a powerful being, even though he's an old dude. He could be in there for everything.
He's done literally everything.
He could have done literally everything.
And that's such a weird way, like, because we root for Rick.
Yeah, it's
right?
It's like an end of this series kind of thing, but it's not. It's the end of like probably halfway or like a third of the way through. We don't really know how many seasons it's gonna get.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm betting 7.
No, it'll be
7 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie.
Oh, okay.
I
was going one more.
Yeah, one more. Look, I think it ends in the way it should have. I think that season ends. You know, there's finally consequence for what he's done.
Yeah,
and because he walks
season
around...
1 ended more on a it wasn't really a cliffhanger. It was just like a weird interlude, almost.
Well, it
like
was
the freezing time thing was just a case of like, oh, okay.
Well, they're opposite ends of the spectrum. Season 1 is proof that Rick can get out of anything, and season 2 is the confirmation that actually he's accountable.
He can't. Yeah.
At the end of the day, ultimately, you have to live with something, and you know, for Rick, it's...
Well, I think it improved his character because it showed that he was able to put other people in front of him, for once.
For the...
Like, yeah. when he like, obviously throughout the series, he spends a lot of time just fucking over everyone else because he almost knows that he can get away with that kind of stuff. You know, he can get away with just sending his parents off to an alien, well, his daughter and his daughter, sort of, Beth and Jerry.
Wow. You couldn't even think what you would call them, would you? I
was like, he's not his parents at all, it's Rick's
son-in-law.
parents. Son-in-law and daughter. Like,
yeah.
He's fine with sending them off to some random alien.
That took you a while. Why did that take you so long?
I don't know, I was having a moment. He's comfortable doing that because he obviously knows as like, you know, nothing really bad's gonna happen, and even if it does, he probably knows it's gonna be fine. But when he's at that stage where he's like, you know, the council is like, my family wants to go back to Earth and they can't without me, so he's like, well, I gotta do it. Like, it's the one thing he can do is just hand himself in, and it's a weird character thing where it's like the end. It's like the straw that's broke the back. Like, he's gotten away with so much up to this point where now he's just like, damn it.
See, I still don't think it's him caring about other people. I think it's him...
Do you think he's, like, planning it?
No.
Do you think he knows that it's just going to be fine? It's just part of the...
he obviously does, but I also think the thing that is the truth is that he's, like... He can get away with anything. He could just go to another world where his family still love him. He can do anything he wants. But the one thing he has to do is live with himself.
Yeah.
So the end of season 2, I think, and this may not be true, I don't know, this is what I think, is that he has realized that the only way that he can get away with what he's done, for him, like, conscience-wise, is to say to himself, I have fucked over so many people for so long, I've done so many bad things that this one time, I'm going to do the right thing. But I don't think that's true. I think what he's done is he's gone, I'm going to turn myself in and I'm going to punish myself. I can't drink. I can't go on my crazy adventures. I can't do all the things that I need to do to escape myself.
Yeah. I
have to be locked in a prison with my own thoughts. I can't do anything else. I'm just going to suffer myself.
But do you reckon in his mind, does he consider it a temporary thing or like a, like, you know, hanging up the coat kind of thing?
I think it's probably... bit of column A, bit of column B. Yeah. So he goes, I'm gonna hang up the coat until I decide that I want to get back into it.
So you reckon he knows that, like, when he's like, you know,
I reckon
like,
he could
right, I'm at the
at
point,
any second.
He can just be like, get out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he doesn't because he knows that he should.
He's doing it. He's sort of like, you know, self-controlling.
Yeah, self-flagellation kind of thing. Where he's like, I need to stop and just give it a hot second.
Yeah, I reckon it's probably what it's going to turn into.
And either way, like the show is so well conceived that whatever they do with it, it's going to be...
I mean, I'm sure, like, it'll be a really interesting first couple of episodes.
They always do things that you're never expecting. I think that that's one of the reasons it's so funny and interesting.
Yeah. Well, I reckon it'll either go. I think it'll go one or two ways. It'll either be like the first 10 minutes of the first episode will resolve the conflict of him being in jail, or it'll be like a 4-episode thing.
or it'll just open with him out of jail, and Morty will be like, "Wait, what?" And he's like,
I just left.
He's like, "Oh, I just escaped.
I just left.
I could have left whenever I wanted."
Or it could just start off, and he'd be like, and like Morty may be like, "Wait a minute, I thought there were aliens here. Like, what happened?" And then Rick comes along, he's just like, "Yeah, I just reversed it. Yeah, I just fixed it.
Yeah, it's fine."
And like everyone else has forgotten, but
Yeah.
Rick remembers, and obviously he makes Morty remember.
Yeah.
Because that's the premise of the show.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Morty can't forget.
He can
He's
never
sort
forget.
of just he's just the surrogate
Oh,
for these
Jesus.
horrible things. I mean that would be interesting still. And I think they could play with the whole. I mean, I reckon season 3 will have a lot more sort of personal stakes for all of the characters, because season 1 was just funny antics.
Season 1 was hijinks.
Yeah, season 2 is a lot of problems and like big issues caused for
but character problems.
yeah.
You know, the
and I
summer
reckon
episode-
season 3 will be a case of just like, maybe Beth and Jerry's
Wow, you are
maybe
bad with
Beth and
names
Jerry's
today.
marriage actually like starts to be really shit. Maybe Rick deals with his self-conscious a bit more. He's just like, why am I doing this? Like a bit more self-reflection rather than just straight consequences.
Yep.
But I think either way, season 3. When's it coming out? It's coming out soon, isn't it?
Soon.
This year.
Yeah,
I've
this
read
year.
somewhere that they were like, oh, because at the end of season 2, they're like, get excited for season 3 whenever, because they had no idea.
Yeah.
But I think there was an article where they're basically like, yeah, it's 2016 at some point.
Cool.
So
Awesome. Woo! We're excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I mean, please, it's so good.
it's the new I mean, it's gonna be a classic. It's just, I think it's gone beyond what like Adventure Time did for cartoons, because it's not just silly for the sake of being silly. It's actually
silly
got to.
And it's also, when it is silly, it's silly for a really good reason.
It's almost like the new Futurama.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's new Futurama.
And, we've always said that. So Ben,
Since about a minute ago, we've always said that. Yeah.
where can people find us?
I don't know. DCM_works on Twitter. DCM.works on the internet. You can email at us. Podcast at DCM.works.
Or you can just
I don't know.
You can tweet
Anything
us.
at
If you can
DCM.works.
hashtag AFAPod.
Yeah, that one.
And you can also, if you want to help support us.
Oh,
What? Come on, head to
No, it's fine.
patreon.com. You always give me a fucking look.
Yeah.
Head to patreon.com/DCMworks.
fucking sell out.
Shut
No,
up. He said before he sells out.
Yeah.
And this podcast is also powered by hover.com. They provide some
the
great
power.
They give us the power, mate. They're great for they host and they will transfer domains. They're really cheap and they're super easy to use. We have a referral link in the show notes. It'll get you a sweet $2 off.
Which is a lot for a domain.
Yeah, because domains are pretty cheap.
Pretty
so
cheap
it's
anyway.
it's a decent amount. And honestly, it's a good service. Even if you don't use our link, just go use them. They're great.
They're good shit.
So yeah, that's gonna do it for this week, and we will see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
It was probably a song that reminded me of it, or I done an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
Writing is definitely an isolating thing.
From an outside perspective, that's weird as
It makes
fuck.
us look really mental.
But that is because of what it kind of said about art.
I had fun in bits. There were fun bits.
We went and bought a value pack of straps.
Oh my god, we did. There's a big lesson here to learn about storytelling.